Hello, everyone. Good evening. Hi. Okay, let's see who are joining. Okay. Great, great. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. You're very much welcome in this session. So I hope you're having a good time building, maybe rolling up your sleeves to code, trying to stretch out more ideas or refining your submission. Which is almost a week before our submission deadline ends on the 8th of August, 11:59 Eastern Time. Please take note of the time, okay? Don't miss the submission deadline. And feel free to greet us by waving on the chat and simply saying hi to everyone who are tuning in tonight or today. It will be a great way to interact with each other in this session. Yeah. Okay, but speaking of interaction, right? I would like to invite all of you here to please join our last AMA session. Take note, this is the last AMA session for the Hedera Origins, meaning Ask Your Mentor live on the 4th of August, same time, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And the good thing about this AMA is that this is your chance to have a one on one discussion with your own mentors. You can either chat, of course, or talk to them in a private meeting room for an exclusive mentorship that every one of us would love to have, right? Yeah. So, additionally, our AMA session has an incentive for everyone who would join or who would participate. So, please don't forget to register for the Hedera Origins Hackathon so you can get important email notifications. And, of course, join our Discord, join Hedera Discord to get timely updates regarding Hedera Origins, this specific hackathon. And of course, let's not forget that this is a trilogy. So this hackathon will run for a good amount of time. We just started with Origins, to be followed with Ascension, to be followed by Apex in the coming months. So yes, please tune in for our exciting announcement. And now, I'm excited to let you see this quick video. This is a quick video, but a very wonderful summary of what Hedera Origins Hackathon is. Let's all watch this. I guess if the video is still not okay for now, I would want to welcome our mentors. You can see them on the screen. Say hi to them, even they don't see you. Yes, let's welcome our mentors for this hackathon for a specific track of DeFi and tokenization. So here with us is our three mentors for this track, Nadine, Michael, and Mikkel. Nadine, let's go.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Nadine. I work at Hashgraph as a developer advocate, and I'm mostly specializing in real-world assets and DeFi. Originally, I came from an enterprise blockchain background, so I used to work with a lot of private blockchains and digital assets. But nowadays, I'm also dealing a lot with smart contract design, and I'm currently leading a product, leading product development for a reference architecture to tokenize real estate on Hedera. Um, and a lot of my work kind of deals with that beautiful intersection of compliance, DeFi, and also user experience. So in the end, you want to create an app that's easy for developers and institutions to interact with, and then therefore making it easy to bring real world assets on chain. Besides this, I also spend a lot of time working with the community, especially when it comes to the Hedera Python SDK, and I'm also advising projects on how to best integrate with Hedera or build on Hedera. So yeah, that's me. I'm very, very excited to be here, and I'm very, very excited to get to know you and to see your beautiful ideas and to see them come to life.
That's amazing. I'll take the next one. I'm Michiel Mulders. I'm also a developer relations, actually, not a developer advocate at Hashgraph. I work with the DevRel team a lot on like educational content. I create a lot of the ERC71, ERC20 content, deploying it with Hardhat or Foundry. And I've been a bit involved with like Stablecoin Studio and a lot of the products that the DA team actually produces. So I have quite good knowledge on these kind of DeFi and tokenization use cases. And that's also why I'm being here to help you guys create better products for our hackathon.
And thanks, Mikhail. I'm Michael.
I'll hand it over.
I'm Michael Garver. I'm a developer advocate at Hashgraph, like Nadine. I've been in the space since 2011 in the crypto space, and I've seen a lot of projects come and go. And this is the year that I am truly excited about, particularly in this hackathon for tokenization in DeFi. And I think, as Nadine was saying, the intersecting line between legislation and the technology, we're right there on the cusp of it. So you guys have an amazing opportunity to build and use a technology that is perfect for tokenization and dovetails right into DeFi along with it. So we're going to talk about that. You're going to see a video pretty soon that really details about some of the use cases that we are going to see in RWAs and tokenization. And then after that, of course, come and ask us anything you want. We're all very happy to talk to you. Again, I'm very excited about this. I hope you guys are too. Thanks for letting me introduce myself.
Okay, thank you so much for the three of you. They're excellent people, guys. So once again, these are your mentors for DeFi and tokenization. So please join us on our AMA on the 4th of August so that you can have a talk to them. That's a very interactive session where everyone would enjoy. Okay, I think we should still need to wait for our video because this is a workshop for the DeFi and tokenization. Now, mentors, actually, we have been receiving quite a lot of questions via Discord or via email about DeFi and tokenization. Would you love to address all of this now while we wait for our video?
Sure. Yeah.
Of course, always ready, right? Let's go.
Wouldn't say all that, but
Okay. I have it here. What are the advantages of building DeFi applications on Hedera compared to other blockchains like Ethereum or Solana?
I can touch on this one. For me, the first thing that comes to mind is fair ordering. No other blockchain in the space has fair ordering. So what fair ordering means is that when I submit a transaction, I can be sure that my transaction reaches consensus at a certain timestamp relative to when somebody else submits their transaction. So if you can imagine a stock market, let's say a stock market has been tokenized and there's smart contracts handling the transactions of liquidity pools or something like that. And I submit a transaction to buy a token or a tokenized stock or an asset. I want to be sure that my order went in before someone else. Maybe a whale heard something and they're trying to front run, and maybe I have heard something from that whale or whatever the case is. I want to be sure that my order went in right when I submitted it. Unlike other chains, and I'm not speaking poorly about them, it's just the design. You have a sort of queue where it's called a mempool, where transactions are put into this pool, and it pretty much goes to the highest bidder of whoever wants to pay the most for getting their transaction in with the block. So, but with Hedera, we have a fair ordering with the way our consensus algorithm is designed, and that is key when it comes to things like trading. I mean, that's the biggest thing that comes to my mind. I know Nadine has a ton of experience in these real world assets, and probably would love to expound on it.
Oh my God, I think you already got up so many good points. But I think it's also really important just to say we do have a native API and native services that you wouldn't have by just going normal EVM. And these are so powerful. If you think about the Hedera token service or the Hedera consensus service, they are kind of the secret sauce that really makes Hedera Hedera. And also that it's so much cheaper. You don't have to estimate your gas. You have fixed fees which are pegged to the US dollar. And to have that option to use these services, or even here in the hackathon to try them out and see what is the difference, I think that's a massive advantage. So if you can try to leverage them, or at least look at how to use them, that's probably something that I
on
would say.
Hedera, unlocking efficiency.
There we go.
Wait, and
There it is.
one thing real quick. I think, wasn't it, how many trillions of dollars did you say, Nadine, that was going to be tokenized by 2030 that was predicted?
Oh, that's a really good one. So it's of course a very emerging market, and
Yeah.
we're at the very forefront. So we currently, if we look optimistically, we think about up to 33 trillion that will be able to be tokenized on chain. So that's a massive emerging market. So if you want to look into RWA, so real world asset tokenization, please do. It's massive. Anything from stable coins to commodities, bonds, but also, for example, real estate. Everything's moving on chain because it makes it like markets that are usually very hard to access, much easier to access, therefore democratizing it. You don't have to own an entire house now. You can own a fraction of that. And then with that fraction of that house, you can do lending and borrowing, which is then related to DeFi. So we have so many opportunities. And it's a very, very actually good market to explore for a hackathon project.
Yeah. And just to put that number into perspective, $33 trillion, that is a ton of money. The whole cryptocurrency market right now is $4 trillion. So if you talk about the part of the market that is tokenization, we're talking, I mean, that's way less than 4 trillion. An optimistic view by 2030 is to be nearly 10x what the total cryptocurrency market is right now. So you imagine how high Bitcoin is. Tokenizing assets like real estate, commodity funds, money market funds, and stuff like that is going to go through the roof in comparison to what we currently have. And getting that legislation clarity that we are starting to see is really going to spearhead that initiative, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Mikhail, do you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think the market, like the last month, we've seen a lot of companies declaring their intent to create like stable coins, on-chain token loyalty points. So it seems the market is like heating up. I think like the main point, you will also see it in Ty's talk a bit later today, is like legislation. If we don't have like legal frameworks of like what happens if you own part of a house in Brazil and you live in the UK, for example, the house burns down, like who's liable, who's going to pay you out, like all these structures need to be like figured out. And these are like interesting challenges that they will open up the market eventually, but they need to be addressed first before we can actually see like this massive adoption. So I'm very optimistic, but I'm also like grounded in like we need legislation before we can like really open up the market.
But that's why this is such a good time to start developing these solutions right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
or bake it into the solution,
right,
like bake in all of these legal challenges within your contract or within your code.
Yeah, and it's like we're so close, you can feel it. Like the mind share is being pushed in that direction where legislation will happen, and it's a matter of when. Everybody wants it, so when everybody wants it, it will happen. And you know, when that does happen, it's good to be ready and have all these solutions built out, so you get that competitive advantage of the first mover initiative. Yeah. So yeah, very exciting. All right. Okay, that's enough from me. Let's watch the video.
Wonderful. Okay, guys, sorry. I just wanted to say that this is a very impromptu question to our mentors. It's not scripted.
Okay.
We don't have this question prior. So look at that. Such an expert, right? Amazing, amazing. I'm so amazed. Okay, so right now, what I'm gonna show you next is we'll be playing a video from Tyrone during the Hedera Con and discover the tokenization possibilities on Hedera with strategies that include leveraging HTS, ERC standards on Hedera's EVM, and hybrid setups integrating smart contracts and HTS. Let's all watch this together.
An innovation. this is tokenizing assets on Hedera, unlocking efficiency, compatibility, and innovation. The coolest part about Hedera is not only that we have multiple ways to tokenize, but it's that it's innovative. And our ability to innovate beyond what blockchain can do is our beauty of our hash graph and the underpinning of all the technology. So the idea of this talk will be going over all of the ways that you can tokenize on Hedera, and then at the end of it, I'll try to help, depending on the project that you're working on, decide which way to tokenize, and then we'll just talk a little bit on how is Hedera innovative and why would you choose to tokenize on Hedera. So trying to do the whole gambit. As Ed said, I am the senior product manager at Hashgraph. I focus on tokenization and the consensus services. And if you're interested, if you're on X or Twitter or Telegram, I'm just SL_patches, and I tweet about nerd things, and that's it. So if you care about tokenization, again, you can follow me on those platforms, and let's get into it. So the main objectives of this talk, we want to understand the 3 ways that you can tokenize on Hedera, and even though it's 3 ways, the way that I've tried to contextualize how to tokenize is in these defined paths, but in reality, in production, if you're an engineer, you understand there is always some sort of overlap and wishy-washiness. So in order for clarity, I'm going to go over the HTS, I'm going to go over EVM, I'm going to go over a hybrid model where you can use both EVM and HTS. I'm going to try to bring the nuance into the discussion. We have over an hour to talk about this, so I'm going to go deep. And as I do that, I want to try to be very clear about why and what these tokenization methods. I'll try to bring that nuance in. Yes, does. Here's some of the nuance on how it could go over to EVM or be used for EVM. So 3 tokenization pathways. I want that to be some sort of clear digestion, and then I'll get into the minutia after that. So as we go through these, I'm going to highlight the unique strengths and the use cases of each of these methods. So again, why would you choose each? And then show actionable insights on how you could choose the right tokenization approach for your project. So here we go. First, I'm going to go over the token service. If you're not aware of what the Hedera token service is, or HTS, that's commonly referred to, it is a native tokenization method for high efficiency and security on the protocol. So it's a native protocol layer of tokenizing without any ancillary code, without having to build your own smart contract. It's native to Hedera, and it's extremely unique. The second thing I'm going to go over is the standard way that most people know how to tokenize. ERC20s, ERC1400s, the EVM, the ERC approach of launching a smart contract, and how you can do that on the Hedera ledger and on the Hedera protocol. And then the most interesting is the third type, which is hybrid tokenization. It's where you can create both a Hedera token on the Hedera token service, but then interact with it and bring programmability from Solidity to that token through a hybrid model. So you combine HTS and EVM, and you make something that's much more unique that gets the benefits of both. So first, again, let's go over the token service, native tokenization on the Hedera protocol. It's built directly into the network, again, so that way it's not something that you can really mess up when you deploy a token. It's much more about putting in the variables and the parameters that it needs to create the initial supply. What's the name of the token? What are the symbols of the token? But it's not, oh no, I forgot that reentry bug in my Solidity, and now there might be some admin capabilities that are now exposed. It's much more streamlined for the user and for use cases because it is native. A lot of that security vulnerabilities that may exist elsewhere isn't here because you can just trust that Hedera protocol is going to take care of how your token works, operates, functions, and moves around the ledger. It simplifies token creation, again, without smart contracts, and that allows you to use JavaScript to create a token in 5 lines of code. It brings the user experience and the developer experience up to a level that a regular Web2 dev can easily and contextualize how this is working and can approach the code very simplistically. You don't need a Solidity contract. You don't need to deploy it. Again, it's all right into the protocol. And this is ideal for projects requiring efficiency, security, and most importantly, cost predictability. So why would you choose HTS? Again, we have the first is that Hedera has that at scale when it's an EVM compatible contract. When you use HTS, you gain the benefits of a hash graph. And so you can tokenize and you can transact in a decentralized ledger at high speeds, which again is really important for those enterprise giant use cases of how, when we talk about onboarding the masses, if we can't scale to the massive onboarding, there's, it's a non-starter. With HTS, you remove that problem, and you allow Hedera to do the main work of making sure that these transactions happen and bring in a really nice user experience, because not only is it high throughput, it comes to consensus in 3 to 5 seconds. And so a mobile user on a mobile app who does a transaction and they see a loading screen is used to about 3 to 5 second load time. Anything beyond that, they're leaving your app. And it's been known in the mobile industry, if you have half of a second more load time, you can lose 15 to 30% of people waiting to see your website. And so speed and actual adoption, speed and user experience is imperative to adoption. And with HTS, you gain those benefits where a user, though interacting with a token service, though actually interacting with Web3, has a Web2 experience they're used to. It's imperative for onboarding people. The other part is predictable fees. So if you have thousands of transactions happening every second across the globe in your enterprise application, your global application, it's really difficult to predict fees of EVM. Okay, so something, some giant NFT mint happened. Like let's just pretend it's 2021. We have the Board API Club is launching some land. At the same time, you're trying to do some bank transactions. Your gas has now skyrocketed to do something. predictable fees and being able to predict quarterly and decide what your budget is going to be for the transaction volume and scale that you have is, again, imperative for these massive enterprise applications that are want to execute globally. And with HTS, it is stable and it is consistent. Every transaction is paid to the USD dollar amount. And so a token transfer is 1/100th of a penny, and that does not change. So you can predict how long or how much it's going to cost to do X amount of transactions, and your only variable in there is going to be the scale of how many transactions you might get if you're more successful. But when you can do that, you can predict. You don't have this unknown parameter variable of gas. It's all contained inside the protocol, and Hedera is basing itself to be the problem fast, cheap. This is that's really stolen a bunch of a stable coin, and you need to freeze that asset before it can be offloaded to a decentralized exchange. That's typically a smart contract. On HTS, you can a key, and you can freeze the asset having to do all of the EVM. You still get the same composability when it comes to admin access, understanding, and doing these broader things. The KYC key is another great example. No token, if you have a KYC on a token, no account can hold that unless you sign for that account to hold it. And so that's extremely important for RWAs. If you have an RWA that can only have 30% of its allocation in a geolocation, and you need them to KYC to understand you're not putting too many of that asset in the wrong geolocation, a KYC key allows you to only give access to accounts that you know have been proved through your regulatory environment of your RWA that it's okay. And if it's not okay, that account can never hold that token. So again, we're bringing this composability and this versatility and flexibility to the token protocol layer that removes the dangers of smart contracts while providing the flexibility needed for actual enterprise global use cases. We also have something that I think is extremely cool, which is integrated royalties. Royalties were great. That was one of the dreams of the 2021 NFT craze, was that I can create art, and that art will always return to me royalties of secondary exchange. Until people realized that was an optional function to call in that smart contract, and they stopped calling it because they didn't want to pay you 10% for your art. And then that was a race to bottom with Blur and everything, and they tokenized it, and it just went to zero, where that was no longer this viable path to creative distribution that you knew you could have these residual income as art. That's not true on the token service. The token service, because it is a protocol-based service, always executes the royalties on the transfer. And so if I have a 10% royalty, I can set it up for 5 different accounts that get, let's say, 2% account. I put that onto the token, and then anytime that's transacted, that royalty will be distributed by the protocol. And so with a feature that used to be sort of the gold standard of why someone would create an NFT and art on Web3, and it had this entire massive onboarding, it kind of lost the golden feature. With the Hedera token service, it still exists. And it's not going anywhere because it's not an option to call the contract call of royalties. It's there. On the transfer, you'll call it. So it's something that I really, it's one of the main reasons why I think HTS has an advantage over typical EVM. And then the last thing is token association. This allows companies and users to have security over what assets are technically in their possession. And this is really important when it comes to taxes, when it comes to legal liability. I think if anyone remembers, BlackRock started tokenizing a money market fund on Ethereum, and with a day, Tornado Cash was sent to that wallet. The illegal asset they couldn't say no to was inside their wallet, and they were a completely regulated US company trying to do financial transactions. And so with token association, you have to associate the token to the wallet before the transfer can take place. And so it brings secure token management, where you do not, you can't just wake up with Tornado Cash, you must associate it. And so when you have money market funds, when you have these financial institutions trying to tokenize and put it out onto the network, again, you have added protections and security on the protocol layer that are more beneficial than a regular EVM that you can gain benefits from for regulatory compliance and for, again, the flexibility of what you want. Because the best part about token association is you don't need to use it. So you can create a new account, and you can say, I don't care about this at all. I accept all tokens. And so it's not about dictating how you use the protocol. It's about making an efficient protocol that allows you to dictate what you want to do. We enable you to do anything in a safer environment through the HTS and the Hedera token service. I probably already just talked about all these things, so let me just look at this. Yeah, you unlock the efficiency, the security, streamline regulatory compliance, reduced operational complexity and cost. Just to go into that a little bit, with these keys and with the ability to use the token service to do the transactions, you're not as, there's not as many variables inside of that. Like if you forgot a re-entry call, or if you got a smart contract audited but they missed a section of it, that complexity in operation is much more refined. So just say someone needs a token that I want to give to them, but it's a KYC key on that token. I do one call, one line of code, I get the account ID, I sign it with the KYC key, and now they can get the token. So even though we have these flexible compliance standards, they're also very easy to implement, and they're accessible to anyone, including JavaScript. So if you're a Web 2 developer and you need to create some sort of protected tokenized asset that can only go to certain people, you can complete a full end-to-end program and execute it on Hedera token service without needing any Solidity, without needing anything else, and it's 100% Web 3. The last part, which I think is one of the most important parts of the token service, and especially for users to understand when they interact with tokens, is that it's immutable permissions after creation. So if I create a token and it has no keys on it, it looks super, kosher, vanilla, great, and it starts being distributed, I cannot add a new key. I can't put on a KYC key and try to roll it back. I can't put on an admin key and allow myself to delete it. I can't put on a wipe key and start wiping it out of people's accounts. So it allows users to have the security of knowing the asset in which I am engaging with only has the permissions that I can see on it today. After creation, it cannot add these things. So that brings that security to the consumer, which I think is also fundamentally important. With HTS, the ability to read these permissions is also much easier for a user to see. You go onto HashScan and you can see, are there keys? Yes, no, OK. In a Solidity contract, it's much more confusing. Maybe the whole ABI file isn't exposed. Maybe they don't care if you know what's happening in that asset. You just have to sort of accept that you're going into this quasi-dangerous field, but you want the token. With HTS, full transparency, very easy to understand, and there's no adapting after creation, which just brings that safety for interacting with tokens that you might want to hold. All right, so that was a lot of talking. I'm going to get a little water. But I would like to go through just the HTS lifecycle of how do you create a token, and then we'll go through the initialization and distribution of that token. We'll do what commands would you use for the ongoing usage, the long-term governance, and then deletion. So we're just trying to do a full cycle of the HTS. I told you we're doing the long path. We're going deep. So just hopefully by the end of this talk, you'll understand all of the complexities of the token service and, again, the lifecycle. So first, token create transaction. You just submit a token create transaction, and you just need to specify the name, the symbol, initial supply, treasury account, and then any optional flags. At the end of that token create transaction, you will get back a token ID, a unique token ID. On Hedera, it looks very different than most other networks, not all of them. So it'll come back with a token ID that's 0 dot, 0 dot, and then an amount of numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that will be the unique token ID of that asset on Hedera. And at the same time, anytime you create a token, it will have an EVM address that's equivalent. And we'll get to that later on why. But they'll have two unique addresses, one that's Hedera-centric and on the Hedera protocol, and another that's referenceable by EVM. When you create the token, this is when you set the keys. So it's extremely important to know exactly what you're going to need in the lifecycle of this token. Highly suggest using testnet and local development first. Don't just send it, or just send it and understand that you might screw yourself in the future if you didn't put the right key on it. But make sure you configure the keys at the beginning for the context and understanding of what that token is going to do. So set an admin key. If you think that you may want to delete that token later, if you want to change any of the top-level token information, you need an admin key. And I believe you can also change the memo and metadata. So on a token, when you create a new token, there's a metadata field that you can reference. HIP 412 is our metadata standard, but then you can have an image, you can have a name, and that's all in HIPs. And the admin key will allow you to update that metadata in the future. So if you think that you're going to need to change the metadata in the future, you would want to add an admin key. So again, conceptualizing what you need from your token, so you know during creation you make sure it's there, because if you don't have an admin key, you'll never have an admin key. It doesn't come back. There's no other option. Freeze key, it allows you to freeze assets in a wallet just by signing a transaction with the wallet ID. Wipe key, it does the same. It will allow you to take a token out of a wallet remotely. It doesn't. So if a user has one of your tokens, you can just boop, and now it's at zero balance. The KYC key, I kind of went over that, but that allows you to sign transactions to allow certain wallet IDs to hold your asset. And without that signage, they'll never be able to hold it, even if it's a P2P transaction. So it's really good for regulatory compliance. The metadata key, which is most centric towards the NFTs. So if you have an NFT collection of 1,000, and they have 1,000 unique images, you want to add some sort of mechanism of metamorphosis, or I don't know, let's say it's based on a grocery store and you bought enough groceries, and now you get the second tier of that NFT. With a metadata key, they can update the metadata of that NFT to present to you the new content that will share that you have 20% off on your groceries. So it allows you to remotely improve or change an NFT's metadata, which is really convenient. And before that key existed, it's extremely cumbersome to try to do such a thing. Also have a supply key, which is imperative for fungible tokens. You need a supply key to create, or I'm sorry, for non-fungible tokens, you need a supply key to create NFTs. And if you have a supply key, it allows you to burn and mint tokens. So if I created a fungible token, I then would mint the supply. You can have an initial supply, and that could be your max. Or I could just say, my initial supply is half of my max, so I have a max of 500, initial supply is 250, and then I use the supply key to mint another 250 later. The uniqueness of Hedera token service is that it does not act like a typical ERC. ERCs kind of do this, but the typical boilerplate, once you burn it, that's it. So if I minted 500 ERCs and then burnt 250, you can't mint more. That's kind of it, and 250 are burnt. On the token service, that goes back into an ability to mint. So if I were to have, okay, I have 500 tokens, and I mint 250, I now can mint another 250 tokens. And so that's a unique aspect of Hedera token service that I would definitely make sure that you have your mind wrapped around when you decide to deploy that, the fungible token on Hedera using HTS, because that does allow, you have to add different mechanisms to guarantee when you burn. Either send it to an address that has a key that you know is null and you've nulled it, or some other mechanism where you don't decrease the supply. But I know I'm harping on a little bit, but fungible tokens, when you burn them, you can mint more until max supply is hit again. That's a little bit unique. We also have the fee schedule key, and I think this is extremely important if you use the fungible token service for execution of royalties that matter in a way that, say it's a DAO payment system, fees can be other fungible tokens. So your custom fee can have a fungible token as the fee, and like it gets even deeper where like your fungible token fee can have a fungible token fee. So you can go like 3 layers deep of fees. It gets really convoluted. I'm going to stop going down that rabbit hole. But the fee schedule key allows you to adapt it. So say HBAR, you're charging 10 HBAR on any transaction in a fixed fee, and then HBAR increases 100%. Well, now you're charging 100% more to your users because your denomination of your royalty is based in HBAR. So you can use the fee schedule key to decrease it down to 5 HBAR. And so the fee schedule key allows you to remotely change the royalties that will always be executed on transfer. And it gives you more flexibility of kind of, depending on what your use case is, getting it closer to what USD is that you're trying to get for that solution, or just trying to keep it in some sort of normalized function for your business and understanding of income. So that's creating the token. So initializing, the treasury account will hold the initial supply. So I create some fungible tokens. They go into my treasury account. If I mint NFTs, they go into my treasury account. Before an account can receive or hold tokens, I went over this, they must be associated. So if you create a new token, that token ID, what we see in Hedera ecosystem all the time is people will tweet out these new token IDs, make sure people have it associated. And we also have something called token airdrop. And token airdrop allows you to send a token to someone without it actually going to their wallet, and it gives them the accessibility of denying or accepting. So if I want to airdrop one of you one token, and you have token association on, you'll get a little notification in your Hashpack or your Blade or your Kabila wallet, and you say, yeah, I want that, or no, I don't. And at no point in time is that actually in your wallet, which I think is imperative for regulatory compliance. You've never gained the asset, and you've never had control of it. They're only asking if they can give it to you. It always stays in the sender's account. So that's extremely important, again, for RWAs, for compliance, and for making sure you're secure on our network. Your account, if you have tokenization on, will not be able to accept tokens unless you accept an airdrop or you associate the token before it's given. Yeah, and then again, if KYC is required, the account must just be granted the KYC status and signed. And then token distribution, the treasury or under other authorized accounts can transfer the tokens. We have a concept of token, I forget the exact technical name, but it's allowance, token allowance, there it is. So you can say, hey, I just minted 500 of these fungible tokens, and I'm going to give Ali ability to move those from my wallet, and he's going to be able to move 100. And so he will be able to do transactions on my behalf because I've signed the transactions giving him that permission. And then that's one way that you could distribute tokens. The other is just simply transfer them out of the treasury. So ongoing usage. From here, real basic, token transfers are happening across the protocol. They can transfer from to and from each other as long as they have a balance, and as long as there's no KYC or freeze keys. Minting and burning, I sort of went over that. You can increase the supply, you can decrease the supply through the supply key. The freezing and unfreezing as optional key in the ongoing lifecycle usage. Again, you can freeze a holder's specific account token usage. You can wipe balances with the wipe key. Again, depending if you're doing a stablecoin, maybe that's something you really want is the freeze key ability. Be able to remove and change balances for regulatory compliance based on the geolocation you're deploying this asset. And then the fee management key, which allows you to update that royalty. So this is extremely, again, unique. When I talked in the beginning about how Hedera innovates, and these are the things that I believe bring both better developer experience and innovation to the space. So one of the really cool things is key rotation. So you can rotate a freeze key, a supply key, through token update transaction. That gives you the ability, say you have a third party and you've given them your freeze key and they're operating transactions on your behalf for half a year. Now you're going to a different third party. If it was immutable, then you would just have no ability to ever guarantee they're not going to use that again. So with rotation, it allows you to say, okay, I'm going to take my freeze key and I'm going to rotate it to a brand new key that no one else has but me. So it brings that security back and that flexibility back to the owner to make sure that their keys and the way they distribute and the way that they're working with other parties is as secure as possible baked into the protocol. Feature adjustment, again, you could also, which is we've seen in production, which is really cool, say I have an admin key on my token and I needed it because I just wasn't sure if I needed to update the metadata or I might need to delete it because something went wrong in production. After 6 months, I don't need my admin key anymore. You can rotate your admin key to a dead key. That allows everyone to know, I previously looked at this token and it had an admin key and I didn't want to touch it, but now it's dead. And so just by simply looking at Hashscan, I can see that that's a dead key. I no longer have any animosity towards this token. I'm going to accept it. And once it's been switched to a dead key, because you can't use a dead key because it's not valid, they can't rotate it again. So that gives you that immutable understanding of safety. And then token pausing hibernation, there's a lot of benefits for that when it comes to RWAs again, and ability of maybe you need to freeze all of your tokens on the network for a couple of days because some hack is happening on your back end. Maybe you're losing $1.4 billion, you don't know. This is something that you could use as the pausing and the sort of hibernating all of the accounts without deleting it. Without taking it out of the network, you can freeze if the freeze key is accessible. And then at the end of the life cycle, deletion. I think in practice, almost no token is really deleted once you put it into production. But if you wanted to, all of the balances must be 0. So you kind of usually either have to have a wipe key or a really good incentivization mechanism to get them all back into the treasury for you to burn them in the supply key. Once the balances are wiped, though, you can do a delete token with the admin key. So you can't delete a token if you don't have an admin key. But if you do, token delete transaction, it will delete the token ID, and it's just no longer valid. You can't mint, you can't supply, and so it's taken out of production. So it does give you an actual way to end the life cycle. Say that you had a fungible token and you wanted that to be a 2-quarter incentivization program, and at the end of those 2 quarters, you want to kill it. You had a wipe key, you had an admin key. At the end of it, you can kill that token, and you've done a full life cycle of an HTS. So HTS in action. What is a perfect thing? What's one example of a good HTS production use case? Stablecoins are the biggest use case we've seen in execution in production. So when you have a stablecoin, you need low transaction costs that are stable and affordable. They don't fluctuate and they're affordable. You're going to need a lot of high throughput. Like no one wants to wait 10 minutes in a grocery line because they're trying to pay with a stablecoin or doing some transaction. You need high, fast, concrete execution speed. You need the compliance tools to simplify that. Typically, you would go EVM route, but because HTS has all these awesome keys, you can use HTS, the compliance regulatory keys in it, and you don't need to be exposed to any smart contract risk. You trust the Hedera protocol to execute all of these things, and you don't have any ability to be hacked because it's just the protocol. There's no ancillary app. There's no other code. You just operate on the network. In practice, we have seen ANZ Bank's ADC on Hedera, which is a stablecoin for on-chain representation of the Australian dollar and enables rapid institutional settlements cross-border. WePay's WeCoin on Hedera. It's a multi-territory settlement network for remittance, e-commerce, and financial inclusion. And then the Shinhan Bank and partners have a stablecoin remittance pilot for issuing national currencies and stablecoins to facilitate fast and low remittance. I have an asterisk next to HTS in action because they sort of use EVM too, but they're not restricted by it. And so we'll get to the hybrid execution and involvement. All of these stablecoins do sort of use EVM, and I'll get into that, but the main token gains all of the benefits I've just talked about, and they have none of the possible security risks of EVM on the layer of the token transacting on the network and in usage in production. All right, I'm gonna take another sip of water, and then we're gonna do EVM and ERC tokenization. All right, just like a show of hands, who's still awake? And I've like, all right, awesome. I got all hands, that's amazing. So Hedera does have EVM compatibility, and we strive for EVM equivalency. So with EVM and ERC, you get the full support of the Ethereum token standards like ERC20 and ERC 1400, which is a really big standard that's gotten a lot of regulatory compliance in governments around the world for RWAs. You get the easier integration with Ethereum protocols, DeFi, and EVM platforms, and you enable the use of Ethereum native wallets and dApps with the Hedera network. So if you have an EVM-only tokenization deployed on Hedera, you can use a MetaMask wallet. It's easy for things like Axelar and Layer 0 to understand that asset, and that is all the benefits of tokenizing EVM on Hedera. So why would you choose it? That compatibility is really high. So if your asset is, again, say an RWA, and it's an ERC 1400, it wants to be on Hedera, but then also wants to have these benefits of global standardization. You have that EVM compatibility across all Ethereum virtual machines. You have the ability to adhere to standards that are being set globally, which is really important. You have the access to the DeFi and cross-chain integrations, so seamlessly connect with the DeFi platforms, cross-chain protocols, Axelar, Layer 0, and you don't have to work with the HTS token to figure out how to use these things. It's much, much more closer to what they expect, right? It's just EVM, and then you're deploying on Hedera. The last biggest thing is you have that simplistic developer accessibility. If you know Hardhat, if you know Solidity, if you know MetaMask, Remix, all of those familiar Ethereum tools allow you to create and deploy tokens on Hedera. You don't really have to learn too much. There are some differences, but again, we strive for EVM equivalency, and all of these tooling does work on our platform. So the main benefits of smart contracts and EVM-based tokens is complex, unique token logic. The second that a KYC key and a freeze key on HTS doesn't solve your problem, you can deploy EVM-based smart contract tokens that are extremely verbose, have unique things. Maybe it's pulling in Oracle data in order to provide some sort of different visual. All of those things are possible when you have EVM. It's, again, compatible with all of the Ethereum wallets and protocols. And the Hedera network currently today has around 300 TPS EVM throughput in our execution layer. That it has a little tilde there and an asterisk because it will increase over time. It's not a set thing that will never change. There are internal workings and thoughts on how we can improve that internally. And so that is current production and will increase over time. So here's some of the protocols that support Hedera. And I think these are really important and have brought a lot of attention from the EVM world onto our platform at Hedera. First and foremost, Chainlink oracles and CCIP. So you get the decentralized data feeds of price oracles and verified randomness, VRF. You get the reliable off-chain data into Hedera EVM smart contracts. Chainlink is also deploying their own link token as an EVM ERC. So it's a giant company's production use using Hedera, utilizing EVM tokenization. So it's being used in production. Layer 0 interoperability, it enables that seamless cross-chain communication. So you can take your ERC 1400, you can move it over to Polygon just using the Layer 0 smart contracts, OFT standards. You can facilitate integration between Hedera and other EVM-compatible networks. You can gain that liquidity. Whatever you really want to do cross-chain, it's a lot easier with the EVM tokens. You have access to Open Zeppelin libraries, so it's standardized, audited smart contract frameworks from Open Zeppelin, which is great, both the band and the protocol. You have access to Supra, Pith, Chainlink. All of those are oracles, EVM accessible data, prices for tokens, etc. And then, again, the developer and framework. So you have Hardhat, you have Truffle, you have access to these very hardened, verbose documentation, widely understood tooling, and you can deploy that on Hedera using those tools you already know. So one example of ERC EVM access, Hedera has created something called the Asset Tokenization Studio. It's pretty great. It does use the ERC standard, and the Asset Tokenization Studio's design was built for ERC 1400 in mind, which is an Ethereum standard, again, for RWA security tokens, and it makes it interoperable with the common standards of ERC 20, ERC 1410, and it expands some of the usability, some of the access, and some of the usage. So Asset Tokenization Studio is a really great user interface to understand how to deploy assets, and it brings more functionality than the standard ERC 1400. Asset-backed tokens, real-world assets, it's really kind of commodities, real estate, fine art, bringing those into the digital age, digital tokens, fractionalizing assets, going across border, getting more access for liquidity for assets. It's all of the reasons why RWAs are great. The Asset Tokenization Studio just streamlines that user experience, makes it more accessible. And I think one of the biggest things is that it has US regulations baked in. It supports US SEC Regulation D, 506B, 506C. I'm sure everyone has read that in this room. Not 100% sure what it says, but we definitely have the regulation supported in the studio, so it's easy to deploy and research and understand. And then the Regulation S, ensuring compliance, is straightforward. So we will extend this to other jurisdictions. And the point is, we don't want you to think about how to do what you're doing. We want you to have the tooling to do what you need to do quickly. And that is something that Asset Tokenization Studio does a great job of. This is quite a complex breakdown, so I might just breeze over it really quickly, and then at the end, if anyone has questions, we can go through it. But this is sort of the flow chart of how Asset Tokenization Studio works. So first, the asset owner does KYC and AML to the broker-dealer. It also then audits the asset, and the authentication of the authorities goes back to the broker-dealer. So I've proven who I am. I have my asset audited, and the broker-dealer knows both of those things. Then it goes to the securitization, it makes it a security, and it goes to the trust. From there, you get the security token offering to the digital asset service. So I have my asset, you know who I am. I go to my dealer, they create a trust, and now that's going to the digital asset service to tokenize. From there, you have the real-world assets or the security tokens, depending on what you're trying to do in the flow. It's kind of, again, the flow chart is a little hard to break down because it's all paths, and it's a very flexible standard. But say you want the security tokens, and you want to issue those tokens, so you can do token issuance to the token platform. There's secondary trading that's accessible on the open market in production. It can also go to a settlement on blockchain on the secondary trading, so that you can have just decentralized execution and markets for that tokenized asset. It can also be put into an asset custodian through this platform, and all of this, again, ties back up to the broker-dealer and authentication authorities and making sure it's valid. So again, if anyone has any more questions about it, I definitely just search Asset Tokenization Studio Hedera. It's an extremely useful tool, and if you're looking for anything RWAs and trying to be on the cutting edge of both use case and cost and speed, I highly recommend checking out Asset Tokenization Studio. So went over all of HTS pretty in depth, went over EVM and ERC, and this is where I think the most value from Hedera is shown. And this is when you pair both the HTS standard and the protocol on Hedera with the programmability layer of EVM. So we call this hybrid tokenization. So you can blend both HTS and EVM together. You get the performant aspect of HTS, 10,000 transactions per second, 3 to 5 second finality, all of those management of the keys, but it supports interoperability between Hedera and EVM. So you can have a smart contract that is executing the key update through the facade. There's a shim layer between EVM and HTS that EVM can talk to, that it understands how it would talk to a regular ERC token, but on the other side of that, Hedera's protocol is executing it on the native token service. And with that facade, you can support this interoperability of the programmability layer of EVM calling and doing transactions over to the Hedera token service. This is ideal for applications that require high throughput and custom logic. So when it's in the market, when it's being traded, if it's a stable coin, but you also need proof of asset reserves, the asset reserves can sit in the EVM, and the stable coin can be supplied and burnt through that smart contract, but once in market, it has 10,000 TPS, 3 to 5 second finality, consistent costs. I think I just went through this slide a little early. It also brings a little bit more of the cross-chain interoperability. So it allows the HTS interactions and Ethereum-based platforms to both work together. So forking Aave, forking Uniswap, all of these things are no longer only ERC-based, because with the ERC facade and the ability for EVM to call HTS transactions acting like it is an ERC asset, it allows this flexibility that these very audited, highly used things like Uniswap can now interact with Hedera tokens. It also allows the custom compliance royalty standards. So you can have the royalty built in on the token in production. And again, any transfer, that royalty is going to be executed. And then you can add more compliance tools or things that you need in EVM if there's more complex logic, especially say you need some understanding of an Oracle's data set. And in order to do that transaction, you must pull in the Oracle information and do this royalty execution separate from the HTS execution in production that's in the open market. All of that complexity is given to you. Again, it's the best of both worlds. Yeah. Again, I think I'm sort of talking ahead of myself, but these key benefits are the scalability, the cost efficiency, the flexibility of the sophisticated use cases, and the cross-network strategies where you can still take open-sourced EVM contracts and utilize them in native Hedera token service communities and projects. So the hybrid tokenization process, you have that seamless integration with EVM. It interacts with HTS through dedicated precompiled contracts. When I say the shim layer, and it's dedicated precompiled contracts. These are standard Solidity calls, nothing different. It works inside of Hard Hat. It works inside of Truffle. And you use the Solidity functions that you're used to for performing these transactions of transfer, mint, burn. HTS precompiles convert the EVM token commands into HTS-specific operations, and then it offers the benefits of the building compliance, transaction fees, and throughput. I'll say it again. I'll say it a lot. Hybrid tokenization has the best of both worlds. It brings the programmability to the token service on the native layer, and we've seen a lot of great things in action on our network that use this. Cross-chain DeFi, again, you can do decentralized finance, allowing EVM to work with HTS and ERCs. You have the ability to enable dynamic fee structures where an EVM changes the royalty structure on an HTS token based on Oracle information to make sure that the dollar amount you get is continually correct in production. You can tokenize real estate and have that real estate be offered to be transacted really fast with EVM contracts, making sure the complex ownership logic is being executed and making sure 30% of that asset is not going into a geolocation I don't want it to go. And this really targets enterprises where they have that familiarity maybe with the Ethereum and EVM access to the community, but they also need this ability to have scaled transactions for scaled onboarding. So some of our biggest use cases on the network are hybrid tokenization. We have a stablecoin studio, which has been used by several of those companies I pointed to that use HTS as stablecoins to create them. IO Builders did an amazing job creating stablecoin studio in conjunction with Hedera. And it eases the development of an asset manager who probably has no idea what they need to do technically. And so with the Stablecoin Studio, you can have simple, easy SDKs, CLIs, and demo applications to contextually understand what you need to do to get your asset onto a network and into production. It has a lot of administration with native token controls, advanced compliance features, and a lot of ability to have a simple user interface, an understandable explanation of what you're doing, along with complex changes that you may need for your stablecoin or your use case, your tokenized T-bills, whatever you're doing. It's a little bit more asset tokenization to do, but it gives you all of the assets and understanding for a non-technical person to understand how to tokenize their asset and get it to production without the need of a developer. Should probably have a developer in the room, but you could do it if you don't want to. It also gives you the operational transparency. So via proof of reserve that's baked into the Stablecoin Studio, and it integrates with leading custody providers for KYC and AML when you need it, it has those accessibilities to those technologies you're going to need to launch a stablecoin baked in. And again, we've already seen deployments of the studio into production with Shinhan Bank, CCB TechX, Standard Bank Group, Joel Bank, Riviera. It's a very nice platform for enterprises to enter tokenizing their assets. This is built on Hedera. Going into community-built platforms and less enterprise but very important ecosystem projects, we have SaucerSwap. SaucerSwap is our #1 DEX on Hedera when it comes to TVL, and it is modified Uniswap v3 contract for compatibility with HTS and EVM precompiles. They took a great code base of Uniswap, and they put in some extra code to make sure it's interacting with HTS correctly with the precompiles and launched it. Again, that gives you accessibility to very hardened code that's already been in production for a long time to deploy, and that's what SaucerSwap did. They took EVM code, deployed it to HTS, and it's working very well. They also have advanced features, and they introduced custom tools managing concentrated liquidity and reward incentives. So they call it Larry. And so with Hedera, you have native staking. With native staking, you get rewards for staking your HBAR. When you put HBAR into a liquidity pool that goes into an account, you can get rewards for that. You can give that back to the people who are staking. And so there's an incentive mechanism baked into the protocol that allows you to give more value to your users because it's built on Hedera. They also have DAO governance. So they leverage Hedera's services to maintain transparent, immutable governance records. They do DAO votes using HTS tokens. And those DAO votes are executed in a way that's very transparent. People know what's happening inside the protocol. You can vote with your sauce token. And at the end of the day, whatever is voted on is executed, and it's a very great transparent log using the HTS and EVM to make a better user experience. Currently, the TVL is approximately around 50 to 60 million, and it is, again, one of our best decentralized exchanges on Hedera. You can also do Bonzo borrowing and lending. This is another example of an awesome, very fortified, battle-tested code base brought over to Hedera that interacts with HTS. So they forked and adapted Aave v2. So Aave v2 mechanisms work with Hedera's HTS, and it's deployed on EVM. They have the Oracle integration, so they use Hedera-friendly Oracle like Supra to get HTS token values, and they have reliable price feeds for that for borrowing lending. And then they did an innovative rollout with a phased launch where they only did the supply phase first to ensure the platform stability. Then they did borrowing. And they gained these assets of being able to complex borrowing and lending, not built into Hedera protocol, using the Hedera token service to execute. So you get all of the benefits, all of the tokens that are launched under HTS on Hedera have accessibility to being borrowed and lended if they're supported by Bonza. Current TVL is approximately around 25 million. So let's compare all of the approaches together. I know I've been talking for a very long time. I very much appreciate everyone's attention. Again, everyone raised their hand and they weren't asleep earlier, and that's great. Yeah, so these are the three ways. And again, they're sort of different and they're also close to each other. HTS, high throughput, 10,000 TPS. Low predictable costs, 1/100th of a penny to transfer an HTS token pegged to USD, doesn't change. It allows you to have no custom logic. It's all native tokenization. You don't have to expose yourself to smart contract risk. Built-in compliance features, if you need KYC, if you need to wipe, if you need an admin key to delete it later, all of those are accessible without exposing more security risks. And it's best for cost-efficient, high-volume use cases that require actual scale to function. ERC, EVM, medium throughput, has about 300 TPS. It has higher costs. It does rely on smart contract execution. Gas does fluctuate for EVM. It has advanced programmability, so it allows you to bring that custom logic, that solidity that you're aware of, the tooling that you have. It has no native compliance, so it requires all custom smart contracts. Again, you can fork Aave, you can take Uniswap, but these are smart contracts external to the protocol of Hedera. And it is ideal for Ethereum-compatible projects and ERC standard compliance. Again, ERC 1400 makes the most sense to launch as an ERC because governments have agreed that that is the standard of a tokenized asset. And then, to me, hybrid is the best approach. It has the high throughput with the programmability and complexity. It has moderate costs because you will get the cheap costs in production on the HTS, but then you also have to do the custom logic costs inside the EVM and the fluctuating gas, so it mixes both of those. You have the flexible programmability. You can have keys on an HTS token. You can interact with those keys through EVM logic, or not. You can only have them inside your CLI when you want to do transactions. And then you can also mint, burn, transfer, execute EVM logic for those HTS through an ERC facade. That allows you to put, again, custom compliance tools into EVM. Proof of reserves is a great example. And it's best for projects requiring both efficiency and customization. You know that your RWA needs some sort of EVM equivalent, and you also know your RWA needs 5,000 TPS if it's going to be an actual production use case stablecoin. You can do that with hybrid tokenization. I think I've said that so many times. I'm just going to go past that slide. So why tokenize on Hedera? These are the three ways that you can tokenize on Hedera, but why would you do it? To me, again, I've gone over these benefits, but the Hedera innovation that's coming and is in the pipeline, I believe, is going to change how you interact with smart contracts and innovate it. There are not ways to do some of the things that are coming up that Hedera is going to put out in our HIP process. So the first HIP that I'm extremely excited about, or HIPs for full functionality, is HIP 423, which is in production today, and then HIP 755 and 756. This allows, when 755 756 release 60 will enable smart contract to do this. It allows a smart contract to schedule a transaction call up to 2 months in the future, dictating any Unix timestamp of date for execution, which could be itself on the protocol layer. You could use Ethereum alarm clock, you could use Gelato, you could use Chainlink. All of those are external to the protocol layer. This is native functionality that allows a smart contract to call itself, to do some sort of multi-sig need transaction of a different smart contract, and it has a month to get all the signatures, and then at the end of that month, it'll execute. If it doesn't have the signatures, it won't. It'll fail. It doesn't have the threshold. If it does, it'll execute. These are things that don't exist in EVM as I understand it. You can use things like alarm clock, you can use Chainlink, but again, that's outside of the protocol. This is baked in, and I'm extremely excited to see what our community does with creating smart contracts that can call themselves, with creating 2-month in the future multi-sig use cases, subscription services. It brings programmability to scheduled execution of its own programmability. It's very exciting and cool. The other thing that's coming is batch transactions. HIP 551 enables the native layer to execute multiple transactions atomically. So I will be able to send a message to the Hedera consensus service, to mint a Hedera token, to send that Hedera token to an account, and if any of those fail, none of it happened. It brings a sort of light sort of smart contract service to the native layer of Hedera. So that really helps if you're trying to ease user experience and you want to both have the user associate a token and transfer the token to them. You can batch that in one transaction they sign and then just send it to them. It eases the user experience, and I'm extremely excited when you pair these two together. What happens when you have a batch transaction of 10 native transactions that's scheduled a month in advance that only happens if the threshold key is met? There's innovation, right? These are exciting new things on Web3 that I believe Hedera is on the front line of, and I'm excited to see what happens when they go into production. The other innovation is outside of the token service, but also because of batch transactions can be paired. I think one of our biggest benefits of the token service is the fact that we have a Hedera consensus service on the same protocol. And again, with batch transactions, you can now make those atomically immutable of all happening or not happening. with the Hedera consensus service, which if you're not aware, it is a service that allows you to put up 1 kilobyte of data, and it will take the consensus of Hedera's governing council nodes, have a Unix timestamp, and then you'll have proof of data integrity and proof that that happened at that time from this node network. With HIP 991, we introduced dynamic fee structures into the topic ID. So if I wanted to post information about the end result of a smart contract, or if I wanted to talk to some compute that's using a topic ID to ingest a command, you can now put custom fees onto that topic ID. So you can only post a message if you pay me 10 HBAR. And so if you have a computer looking at a topic ID, all of the monetization mechanisms are baked into the protocol, and you just do the compute when the message exists. You don't have to think about it. You just set up the computer and go, OK, when message exists, you've been paid, execute thing. When AI starts utilizing this, when there's a verbose understanding of how do we take tokenized assets, how do we utilize consensus service to dictate or mark off-chain things that are happening with verification of authentic services, and then how do we make sure that we get paid when there is a process or a compute mechanism that needs to happen when we get a message, all of these things are being streamlined, so the user experience is very, very simple. And again, especially with 551, you can combine all of these into one call. So the Hedera innovation, the ability to match our native services together, the ability to take our native token service and increase it with EVM, interact with EVM and our token service in a different method of proof of reserves, of executing transactions, of minting, burning, all of this is a tapestry of choice. You're not restricted to anything. You're given everything you would want, and the flexibility of combining or not combining these is up to you and your use case.
All right. I think the video is done. Right.
And
Sure.
I just wanted to say, like, as a last part of that, I really liked what he said, that Hedera is a tapestry of choice. We've given you all the things available that you can do on EVM smart contracts with transparency and speed and many other features at the Hedera native layer, like scheduling a smart contract to call in the future at a certain timestamp. No other network has that. Batch transactions. I think that's awesome. How you can have a set of native transactions execute all or none. It's amazing. So very excited to see. Hope you guys liked that video, and totally ready to answer your questions.
Okay, yeah. So I understand that the video is pretty fast, but this is fitting because considering how fast Hedera is, not just in transaction speed, but in driving innovation. Yes. What I'm also happy about this session is how active our audience is. I guess DeFi and tokenization topic is really a popular topic, right? So let's tackle some of the questions that we have received. And yeah, I just want to mention that we are aware that there are questions raised about this video being uploaded after this session. So of course, this specific video itself will be re-uploaded, and you can adjust it on the playback speed that that would fit for you. Yeah. So okay, let me get into the questions. I'll go to the first question that we received. Is there an ETA for when community nodes will go live on Hedera?
We don't have an ETA on when community nodes will go live on Hedera. We have a path to decentralization for those of you watching that aren't familiar with this. We started with our network with a set of organizations that presumably care about their reputation. These are organizations like Google, Atma, Chainlink, 31 others, Amex 32. I think it's 32. And once we get all those members filled up and everything is running as expected, then we will expand out to what are called community nodes. And community nodes will be projects that are vetted by the council and voted in to run transactions and verify them and hold a stake weight. After that, then we will transition to fully anonymous nodes and be entirely permissionless. And that will be the true north, totally trusted, decentralized network. If you look at Ethereum or Bitcoin, over 60% of the nodes on Ethereum right now are anonymous. So you don't know where they are, who they are, and you can have things like a state-sponsored attack. I'm not saying that will happen. I'm just saying it could happen. And the way we have modeled it on Hedera to start with a core governing body of institutions and organizations that presumably care about their reputation and branch off from there, we establish a much more trusted network once we get to fully permissionless nodes. And as it stands with community nodes, we're just not quite there yet, but it still is on the roadmap. You will know as we know, and we'll provide those updates to you, but just not quite there yet. So there's not an ETA for when that will go live. But thank you for the question, Milton. It's a great question.
Thanks, Michael. Okay, the next question that we have is from the app developer. Are Hedera HTS tokens compatible with the ERC 4626 Vault smart contract standard?
I can take that. And I think this is a beautiful question. Maybe you already think it has been answered because Ty in the video has been speaking about the hybrid token model that we have. So Hedera has this beautiful ability to make HTS created tokens interact with the Hedera EVM as if they were standard ERC20 tokens. So you could just use the Hedera token service to create your asset, then have your Vault contract, and then we have those pre-compiled system contracts or facade, I think Ty said, that act between the bridge of these HTS tokens and the EVM. So yes, go for it. You can do that.
Any other addition, Michael?
Satisfied.
Yeah, satisfied. Yeah, you can keep facility smart contract, any standard that you can imagine, and you can customize the logic and call the precompile functions that interact, as Ty was saying, the facade shim layer that interact with the native services, the Hedera token service to be specific. So yes, the answer is yes. You can interact with Hedera token service through an ERC 4626 Vault standard. So, but you're going to have to add custom logic within that standard to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so he has
to ask us how.
sorry. Okay, so he has an additional question with this. He mentioned that there is an ERC20 features like hooks, example before transfer, etc. Yep, it's on the screen.
I'm sorry, I don't really understand the question. Are you asking about are hooks available on Hedera? Because we have a hooks hip. Let me see. $11.95. Yeah, EVM hooks. Users program EVM hooks by writing contracts in Solidity that compiles to bytecode. They're either pure, using neither storage or external contracts, or lambdas, like event-driven code running in the cloud. And these hooks are entities with different 64-bit hook IDs, and there's no limit on the number of hooks that any entity can use. You were talking about crypto transfer. That's what's supported here. And we're starting with smart contracts. But if you want to take a look at the hooks that will interact with EVM, have a look at HIP 1195. It's called Hyro Hooks in Application to Allowances. That's been approved, and it's currently in development right now. Okay. I hope that answered your question. I don't know. Did it answer your question?
The app developer, you can say yes on our live chat.
Yes, or you can reach out later. If it didn't answer your question, let's just link up and we'll get you squared away.
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Yes, perfect.
Great. Okay, maybe we can move on to the third question from Sean Armstrong. Does Hedera have a native DeFi protocol? Not sure if I'm saying that right. I guess I'm asking if it has the equivalent of Flare for the XRPO.
Yeah, so that question, Milton kind of already answered it. He says, unlike Ripple, Hedera has native smart contracts. There is no need for something like Flare network, and Flare is basically a way that wraps a Ripple token and allows you to interact with different DeFi protocols that are programmed. We have Solidity smart contracts on our network, so you can just start interacting with it and create smart contracts that enable DeFi applications, things like Bonzo, things like Saucer Swap. You can immediately start using it, DeFi use cases. There's no special thing that has been created to enable that.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question, Sean? I feel like Milton answered it perfectly. As so long as you actually know what the Flare network is.
Okay, maybe I can move on to the next one. Yeah, how can Hedera help build trust, transparency, and efficiency in the distribution of agricultural and livestock products across rural communities in Nigeria using tokenization and smart contract? Wonderful question, by the way.
Yeah, super good question. And I guess it's always good to remember what are really the cases when blockchain or ledger technology shines. And it's when you have distrusting parties and a lot of inefficiencies. So supply chain tracking is here a really, really good one. So you could start with having digital identity for every farmer. Then you could use tokenization for the product. So that would be kind of like a digital passport for whatever your product is. You said livestock, and then that livestock would go to a warehouse. It would be scanned in, and this would, for example, release a payment straight to the farmer. And then the location or the time it would arrive in the warehouse would be sent to HCS, or consensus service for tracking. So the beauty of this system would be that it's fully automated. You don't need that trust money or products wouldn't get lost. And also, you have a world where you could go into the supermarket and I could scan the QR code of whatever the product is, and I would see who's the farmer that produced it, and what was the journey of that product. So, where did it come from, and what were the stops? This is probably the fastest way to kind of answer this. But then, of course, I'm not a complete pro when it comes to Nigeria. So I do hope I got that right. If you have a specific problem in mind, you can, of course, reach out and we can brainstorm about it.
And
Yeah, and
I would just add that in general, decentralized networks are going to help build trust, transparency, and efficiency in agricultural tokenizing anything really. And when it comes to Nigeria, I just looked up the population. You guys have almost 230 million people in Nigeria alone, which is nearly 2/3 of what the population in the U.S. is. And you're going to need a network that can support that kind of scale. Hedera is perfect for that. So on top of having a need for transparency and trust through decentralized networks, you're also going to need scale. And that's where Hedera comes in. So Hedera can help build trust, transparency, and efficiency in that respect.
And to add to this, I think you don't even need tokenization if you want to just solve like the transparency and trust problem, perhaps. You could use our Hedera consensus service, and every interaction you do, you can timestamp it basically with a message on the blockchain. So that would be an alternative, more lightweight approach that already adds quickly like more transparency. But tokenization also has like way more features, and like you can set all kinds of keys on these tokens, so you can build way more complex use cases. But initially, like a consensus service would also solve this problem. in a limited manner at least.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, just to touch on what Mikhail said, you don't have to really use smart contracts alone. We have the consensus service. So, if there was livestock that a farmer had to, like let's say an overseer had to come to the farm and update what he saw, that overseer could have a topic, and he could have a key that writes to that topic, and only he can write to that topic. And if as he's making his checks, he can see, okay, these cattle looked had this amount of this health meter, whatever that standard is. There were these amount of supplies to support that cattle, and he can record that in his topic. Only he has the key to write to that topic, and then it's available on the public network for everyone to see. So that builds the trust and transparency, and you don't need to use the smart contracts.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for all our mentors who answered this, right? I know that this Q&A is really, really getting very interesting, but as mentioned earlier, if you're tuning in a while back, we promised to share a video introducing the Hedera Trilogy, and this origin is just the beginning. Let's take a moment to watch this video and get a better sense of the bigger picture behind this hackathon. Wow, that was nice. Okay, I hope everyone liked that video, and you can see that that is the bigger picture of our Hedera Trilogy hackathon. So please tune in for more announcement about the unfolding two more hackathons after this origins. Yeah, so let's get back to the Q&A session. Mm, okay. How does the KYC work with the HTS? Can you give us some more details?
So I'll take this one. So you can set like the KYC key on the token, and this means that you're actually connecting like a KYC provider. So you have like an institution that does like, for example, it verifies identities or passports, and basically you set a key of this provider as a KYC key. They will verify within their own systems or processes if the key is if the ID is valid, and if it's valid, they can like sign transactions. So that's usually how you work with like a KYC provider within the HCS system.
And I would just add, at the end of the day, it's just a key. It's a key on top of the token. So and for this purpose, it's for KYC. So an auditor, a third-party person can come in, have that key, and they can say this guy is this user is KYC, true or false. It's a flag, and then that token will now be able to interact with that account to say that account has been KYC'd for that token, and if not, then that account won't get the token, whatever the rules you set are.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of the day, it's just a key. Just like the admin key is a key, the freeze key is a key, the wipe key is a key, and you set those all at token creation.
So in essence, as part of their code, like they have like the whole flow of like verifying an ID or a passport, they would send like a KYC, I think it's a KYC or token grant KYC transaction to the network, and this like approves the account basically. So it's just a small step they add to their own logic to add like HTS KYC basically.
It's a way to have it at the on chain.
Mm-hmm.
KYC auditor can interact with the chain very easily with his key.
All right, Nadine, do you want to add something?
No, fully agree on everything that has been said. Satisfied.
Okay, let's go to the next question. Do you have a Hedera grant or funding program for tokenization projects to support African startups?
So the best address is always the Hedera Foundation, office sister organization. They have a grant program, so you can go on their website and then submit a proposal and ask for funding. What we're also having, of course, is hackathons. So this one that you're doing right here. There's another one from the Hashgraph Association that is looking into projects in Africa currently. But I would say if you're looking for grants and funding, definitely check out the Hedera Foundation. I don't know if anyone wants to add something.
Yeah, I love that answer. I mean, the Hedera Foundation, they're the organization that handles the grants. You're going to want to go to their website and apply for the grant there. I'm sure they're happy to support startups coming from Africa.
Definitely. Okay, let's go with the next question from Alula. We're building Edgeflow to tokenize SMB inventory as NFTs on Hedera. Any DeFi lending or RWA platforms on Hedera support collateralized lending or invoice factoring. Seeking integration partners here.
I don't have anything to say about integration partners. I'm sure there are a lot of builders here. If you just interact with them on the virtual platform, when I was going there, I saw tons of builders. There's people in the Discord. Link up with them, and maybe you guys can work something out. As far as DeFi lending or RWA platforms on Hedera that support collateralized lending. Look at Bonzo Finance. They do DeFi lending, and for the tokenization part, of course, look at the tokenization studio. It shows some very interesting things about how you can tokenize properties, set slices, and invest in those in a fractionalized way.
Yeah, and please don't forget to join the Discord community if you haven't yet, because you will definitely find your teammates there, and there will be a lot more opportunities that you will explore from the Discord. So please join Hedera Discord server. Yeah? Okay, maybe we can go to the next question. Hi, I'm building the Nigerian stock exchange on the Hedera blockchain. I am past the legislature on here. Can I partner with Hedera to do a thorough check at the code base to ensure security? I am basically tokenizing the stocks on the exchange.
So our consensus model is extremely vetted. We have gone through very arduous proofs with educational institutions to verify that the code runs as expected using formal methods, which are cock proofs that verify that the code runs exactly as expected, and it uses formal methods. If you would like, I would highly recommend checking out Dr. Lehman Baird explaining how the consensus algorithm works and the formal methods proofs that he talks about. I will do a quick search, and I'll put the link up on the chat. But as far as partnering with us to verify that the code is secure, I would have to link up with you later. I'm not entirely sure how that would work,
Yeah.
but yeah,
We can
Mikhail.
maybe open like a thread in Discord, and then we can jump on and see how we can actually help.
I mean, if I understand the question correctly, you're asking if we can vet your code base and the
Think so,
security of
yeah.
it. I don't.
Oh, okay.
We're
Okay.
yeah. I don't think we're doing this as an organization, but let's definitely reach out and see what you're having, because depending on in what stage you are, and especially because you're saying about legislation, maybe an introduction to the Hedera Foundation would be possible. So let's link later.
Yep. Contact your these mentors on our Discord. Okay, so we have the mentor assistance channel. You can tag them, and then you can hop into an exclusive conversation with them. Yep. And don't forget, on Monday, August 4th, we have an AMA session. You can actually talk to them in person, in actual. You can talk to them in a private room. So you can have an exclusive conversation. Yep. Okay, so before I proceed to the last question that we have received, I just wanted to address some of the questions regarding the video. So, yes, I understand that the video is quite fast, but do not worry, because you can use the same link of this live stream to play it back again after this workshop itself. So if you have seen it on Twitter, you've seen it on LinkedIn, I believe that you have clicked a YouTube link to this. And if you click that once again after this session, definitely it is a recorded session. Yeah, so you can just play the video according to the playback speed that will fit you. All
We're so
right.
fast, you're gonna have to slow us down.
I guess so. But yes, feel free to download the video and then play it back according to what fits you. Yay. Okay, let's go to the last question that we have from Jason. Which programming language is you think the best use for the Hedera apps? Rust, C++, Java, etc.?
I mean, that's the beauty of it. Whatever you want to use, really. We have many different we have many different SDKs. So it doesn't matter if you're a Java developer or a Rust or C++ developer, or Python is the newest SDK that we have as well. You can use that to interact with Hedera. So you don't have to learn something new if you don't want to. And of course, if you want to use the EVM, then Solidity is your best friend. But yeah, add on, guys.
Just to add, the consensus layer, the core code is written in Java. So I don't know if that helps, but on top of that, we have pick your poison. You can do JavaScript, you can do Python, you can do .NET, and
or even write your own API request in whatever
you can
language
write
you
your
want.
own API request.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's really, there's a million ways to skin the cat here.
Well, in the end, you pick like an SDK, the ones we created, and do a lot of things for you. So it's easier to use like Java, JavaScript, Go, or Python. If you want to use your own language, then you have to do a bit more manual work, like signing transactions is a bit harder because it's not baked into like SDK methods. So, but it still works. It's like sending an API request with some extra signing logic and other things you need to take care of. But basically, any language works. But preferably, you should use like one of the major SDKs that we support to make your lives easier.
Okay. Any additional, Michael?
Just to touch on what Mikhail said, yeah, definitely go with the core ones that we support. You can find those on our docs.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we have tackled all the questions we receive online. And I just wanted to really thank everyone for being very active on the chat and for participating in this wonderful workshop. Thank you also, mentors, for answering all the questions. And yeah, I would like to invite all of you once again to please join our last AMA. Once again, this is our last AMA for Origins, meaning this is as your mentors, okay, live on the 4th of August, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time. So yeah, the good thing about this AMA is that you'll get a chance to have a one-on-one conversation or discussion with your very own mentors. You can pull them in some meeting rooms that are private and exclusive to you, so you can have a conversation with them. Yeah, and additionally, our AMA session has an incentive for everyone who will join and participate. You will receive an NFT. And sometimes we have raffle. So please join, yeah? Then don't forget to register for the Hackathon Origins if you haven't yet. And I think that's all. Mentors, do you want to add anything else before we end this session?
I just thank you so much for coming on and watching us and letting us share our time with you. And very excited to see what you are going to build.
Nadine?
Yeah, 100%. Super, super excited to see what's going to be built. It's a pleasure to answer the questions. And if there's more questions, we're always there for you in Discord. Just reach out and we get back to you as soon as possible.
So we'll check it daily.
Okay. Okay, I guess this is the end of this session. So I would like to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. See you on the 4th of August. See you on the last AMA we have for the Hackathon Origins. Yep. Bye.
See ya.
Bye.
The need for a more interconnected world is fueling new decentralized technologies and new ways of doing business. Hedera stands at the forefront of distributed ledgers, where every interaction is not only trusted, but fast, efficient, and secure. While traditional blockchains struggle with speed and fees, Hedera's network settles transactions in under 3 seconds for a fraction of a penny. And the proof is in the numbers. Hedera is uniquely governed by a council of the world's leading institutions, ensuring transparency, trust, and decentralization. It's no wonder Hedera is the leading choice for enterprise and DeFi use cases. Everything from real-world asset tokenization to AI data integrity. Discover the only decentralized network with the governance, scalability, and security to power the new digital economy. What future will you build?